I was talking to Woody and Kyle before Caleb got here beforehand, where before the show today, I just needlessly made myself sad watching this memory loss documentary. Have you guys ever heard of the guy with like the 7 to 30 second memory in England?
Yeah.
I can't
His name
recall.
is Clive Wearing. Yeah, Clive Wearing. And I had watched like bits and pieces of this, maybe not fully paying attention years and years ago, and thought it was fascinating. And I actually just sat down and watched it today and with my full attention. And I don't know if there's something as heartbreaking as this guy's story. Like basically he got a bacterial infection that gave him a wild fever in like 1985. And it's important to note that this guy was a musical genius, like a concert pianist, like conductor, like studied music, could play anything, super knowledgeable, like a very, very bright, smart guy, genius level. And he got this infection, and then he couldn't make new memories, but he also couldn't remember old memories other than like very specific things, like skills he'd learned, like playing the piano or just hearing like a sequence of notes and being able to identify what, composer did that. Like he could still do that stuff, but he had no memory of like where he lived, of anyone he had met. He knew his wife, and that was it. And every time she like comes in a room, he's like beaming, like so excited. He's like, "Oh, my angel, oh, you're here." And then 2 seconds after she leaves, he has no memory that she was there. And he can't remember the last time, like he doesn't know of any plans for her to come in the future. And he would say stuff like they were trying to really solidify. And it's difficult. It's impossible to put yourself in his mind's eye because there's just no way to properly empathize. We can't imagine that level of memory loss. And he would on multiple occasions, this is like 25 years at this point. This is like a documentary from 2005 or so. So maybe 30 years afterward. He's still alive. He's 86. And they would ask him, like, 3 people and his wife came in, 3 people making a documentary and his wife, and they were all talking. And they were like, do you know that you've been on television before? This is the second big documentary they made about him. And he's like, very gracious, like, "Oh, gracious. I didn't know." And they're like, "Really? 10 years ago we did something like this." He's like, "Oh, really? Fascinating. And
I think I have seen that.
They would ask like, what have you been up to? Or just some sort of question to try and delve. And he's like, "Well, I'd never seen a human being before the 4 of you walked in here today. You're the first people I've seen."
Oh my God.
And they're like, "Really?" And he's like, there were a couple like lines he gave that really revealed how intelligent he was, where they're like, what has it been like? And he's like, "Oh, I haven't seen a person since I've been ill. I haven't had a meal since I've been ill. I haven't spoken to anyone since I've been ill. I have no conception of time. What's it like to be dead? A 20-year-long dreamless sleep. Being asleep for 20 years with no dreams. What do you imagine that's like?" And he's like in one of his 7 to 30 second windows right there explaining this. And then his wife will be like, "Do you know what I do for a living?" And he's like, "Prime Minister of Europe, Prime Minister of the EU." And she's like, "No." And any other guesses? He's like, "Queen of England." And then she's like, "No." He goes, "PR?" She's like, "Yes, very good." He's like, "Oh, yes. A very fun job. There's something new every day." And they're in the middle of a meal. He's like taking a sip of wine and eating. Not 10 seconds passes. And she goes, "Do you know what I do for work?" And he's like, No idea. You've never mentioned it to me before this very moment." And then like, what do I do for work? You want to take a guess? And then he immediately goes, "Queen of England, Prime Minister of the EU." So he's recycling the same joke.
He's got the same joke
over and over.
Taylor, here's my question. This is like one of my fears, but I hope it doesn't alter your answer. Was he suffering? Because it almost sounds like when you have Alzheimer's or when you have memory loss, you're not the victim. Everybody who cares for you is the victim.
Yeah.
You're fine.
There is a tiny bit of an element of that, but unlike a normal like dementia patient, actually here, let me link it. Zach, can you show entries from his journal in 1990?
I think with dementia, like a lot of that is just paranoia, and there's a lot of craze and just negativity that comes with it. But what you're talking about, that guy is just like any other living thing. He's like a tree.
He's very with it. Like he can play a whole piece on the piano that extends past it. And so apparently from like 1985 until like 2005 when that documentary was made. He over and over and over would start a journal, and like every 7 to 30 seconds he realizes he exists, and he's saying, so 7:46 a.m. I wake for the first time. 7:47 a.m. This illness has been the death till now. All senses work. First thought, I love darling Deborah forever. Deborah's his wife. 8:07. I am totally awake, with totally X'd out. And so what he would do is he would write these epiphanies every minute, all the time, and then have to go back and exit out, like X all these things out, and write, now I'm truly awake. Now I'm actually awake.
He's fucking Descartes every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think, therefore I am.
He's trying to figure it out. And so like his situation, and this is why it made me so sad, like it's truly hellish. Like he'll say stuff like, oh yes, I remember I have a son. No idea his name. Don't remember what he's like. Like just no conception of things outside of his wife. Like
and how did he get this?
A bacterial infection. He had like 105 fever for a couple of days, and it destroyed a lot of his hippocampus.
Oh my God.
And so he can't create new memories. Like he was like a musician to the level that like he was on TV on the BBC. Like they would take him places and have him play. And like, it was so sad. Like his wife was walking him through this big cathedral, and she's like, you recognize this place? And he's like, never seen it before in my life. Never. And then they're like, she's like, so what if I told you held a concert here in 1983 that was televised in 5 countries across the EU? He's like, oh, gracious. And he's like, what if I told you that you did, this piece here? And like, even before mentioning it, he's like, yes, very interesting reverberations here. Interesting sound quality here.
You could
like,
pump his tires and never got caught in the lie.
Yeah.
You're actually the king of the world, right?
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, refer to me as your majesty from henceforth.
I'm the emperor of man. What?
I'm going to need a better looking wife. Stat.
How many cycles per day? Fuck.
Dude, he's like so clearly smart, because like he's got a 7-second window to be clever, and his wife will be like, darling, what is love to you? And he's like, 0 in tennis, everything in life.
Oh,
it's like, so it's like this guy lost every bit of memory 25 years ago, and he's like somehow kind of suave. Like,
is it sad? Because it's like, because it is sad. I agree 100%. But it's like babies don't have anything. They got even less going on than that guy. Is it just not sad the state the babies are in it because they will eventually be out of it? Is that why it's not sad?
Yeah. Well, it's also I should have mentioned, like, he had children from a previous marriage.
Doesn't remember them.
Doesn't remember them. He had a whole life of being a very successful guy, had a lot of potential left in him, and like seeing all of that destroyed in like what has to be the most harrowing terror. Because for years, apparently, after initially it happened, he would like just be freaking out because like just bursting into tears, not able to function, because obviously, like, imagine that every 30 seconds,
oh my God,
you wake up and you think it's the first time every time it's like you're coming out of a coma. And sometimes you're by a mirror and you're 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years older than you remember. Basically, like, that something's wrong, but you can't identify it. And then if anything starts to make sense, it's gone.
Have you guys ever blacked out before? You ever had the feeling of like waking up?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But you're just like awake?
Not for real. Like not like a real choke out situation.
Been choked out and been knocked out.
I mean like you're just doing something and then you wake up.
Oh no, I've never had that.
Oh, I've came out. You mean like, well, if you mean coming out of like a really intense daydream or maybe even highway hypnosis, I've done that.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, that's a really weird
startling
feeling.
at first. It's like
very odd.
I was not in control a moment ago. How long was that moment? Because I also have a perception of time.
Yeah. It's that happened to me a lot in a very short period of time, and I was like, probably gonna die from a tumor. My great grandfather died from lesions in his brain and used to black out he was like 25 years old when he died. And so in my mind, my dad's mind, when he was growing up, he thought he was going to die from tumors when he was 25 years old. Everyone always thought we were going to all die from tumors when we were 25 years old. And like, we all have terrible migraines and stuff. So it's like all these head, like, oh, what do you feel like today? Oh, everything's black and white today. Is it a tumor or is it just a normal migraine aura? And so like for a while, I was like, I thought that there was something severely wrong with me, but it's just a consequence of migraine. Sometimes I'll be sitting at my computer and then I'll just be like, I'll literally just wake up and just be not doing anything, like no hypnosis, nothing like that. And I'll just fucking alive. Shut up.
Dog
That
said,
startled the dog. That's that little jerk. He's seen you do that. before.
you want those?
Yeah.
That's really scary. How often does that occur?
About once a month.
Pretty
About once a month.
consistently, like throughout.
Pretty consistently. Yeah, there was one time though, or one period of time in which it was very bad, and I was actually listening to PKA, which is pretty ironic, and I was talking to my cousin, who is one of my co PKA bros, and we were playing. I think it was Warzone when Warzone first came out, like a couple years ago, and I was sitting at my computer, and I was playing Warzone, and I think I died. And I was just sitting and watching some kind of cam or scene or something play by, and he was playing. And I heard like this bang at my door. And I was in the basement, and I heard a bang at the front door. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? And then I walked upstairs and there was nobody at the door. And then I looked at the time, and like 15 minutes had gone by. And Clint, my cousin, was not he left the call. He thought I like left. And my game was just like sitting there. I disconnected, and I woke up. Literally, I thought someone banged on my door, and that's how I arose. But there was no bang, and it was just like this loud sound of coming back to. And then I got really nervous because I was like, "That's not good." So I started having like a little bit of a slight panic attack. But while I was having a panic attack, I also felt like I was passing out as well. So, and I was like walking around trying to not fall asleep. Which was it was one of the strangest things that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And when I came out of it, I was like, okay, I think I'm good. I think I feel normal. But the whole time I was like quizzing myself, like, am I dying? Like, is there something wrong with me? What is I was doing math and trying to remember stuff. Everything was totally cool. I felt like I was passing out, but I was awake and standing and not like low blood sugar or anything like that. And I had a little micro blackout moment.
Jeez.
It was weird.
But your instinct was to
that.
walk around and get active?
My instinct was to do whatever I could to not sit still, to panic more.